I think that ordinariness comes very much from them being a family. But if you take the royal wedding of 1981 between Charles and Di, that was also an extraordinary event. It was named typically a fairy tale romance. And I think it's that constant tension between ordinariness and extraordinariness that is so beguiling about the modern monarchy.
But it was perhaps this overwhelming success that sowed the seeds of the present difficulties, setting in motion the evolution of the royal family from solid respectability into soap opera.
Once you'd actually admitted that the royal family were ordinary human beings, with ordinary wants, lusts, hates, problems, difficulties, and all the other things, once you'd admitted that, you couldn't go back. And I think we've been lumbered, or the royal family's been lumbered with us ever since. I think it was a sort of pact with the devil that they agreed to.
Even before her marriage, Diana Spencer excited frenzied behaviour from the press. And after the wedding, the excitement surrounding her every action led in the summer of 1982 to the publication of an infamous photograph. A pair of journalists crawled for several miles through tropical jungle to get their blurred shot of the pregnant princess. James Whittaker, then of the Daily Star, was the man responsible.
I don't think that the royal family, I've never believed this, have the right to say, well done, we've enjoyed you covering this official visit or that particular opening or that unveiling ceremony. Now please go away until we choose to have you back.
Time and again, the Queen and the Prince and Princess of Wales have called in the editors, have tried to explain to them, have asked them to lay off, to just cool it. And they've had no luck on any occasion. You know, the editors have been invited individually to have lunch with the Prince and Princess, and they've gobbled up their organic vegetables and gone away and done exactly the same as they've been doing before. I don't know how you solve the problem.
James Whittaker is of the view that while the palace may not like the press, they do depend on it.
I can assure you that there's only one thing worse for the royals, and the Queen actually has been heard to say this, one thing worse than being harassed, and that is being ignored. They dislike that more.
Television, too, once largely loyal, now offers an image of royalty that is uncomfortably like the caricature of the early 19th century, and it's claimed this only reflects a change in public attitudes.
I mean, the amount of caricature you could do of the royal family and the royal family in the 16th century was pretty minimal. And I think with Spitting Image, we had to be very careful. We didn't have the Queen Mum on the first show. I mean, I wanted the Queen Mum on the first show, and the producer said, no way. And I think that you do it with really the consent of the reader or the viewer. Gradually, you can do more. There must be some truth in the satire that you're doing, a little bit of truth in the satire. And I think that you can't just make things up because you think you will. You have to go along with your audience.
More disturbing for the palace, perhaps, is the change in the stories of royalty that the public seems to want from mainstream news programs.
To put it at its most simple, in the 80s, I think they wanted to see basically happy pictures, if possible, funny, but something which would take them out of themselves and put them in the role of these amazing Dallas-like people touring the world at the very highest level. What they want now, probably at the very lowest level, is a confirmation of, is the marriage on the rocks? Are they going to divorce? This sort of basic 90s kind of nitty approach.
At the same time, opinion polls show that popular enthusiasm for the monarchy has cooled.
Over the decade that we've been studying the monarchy fairly closely, we've seen a high level of support, 77%, drop down to around 56, 55% over the last 10 years. This means that while they still have the majority of the country behind them, it's a declining share of the market.
The palace has tried to direct public attention away from royal gossip and to remind people of the monarchy's essentially serious purpose and of its greatest strength, the Queen herself. In the latest official film, Elizabeth R., the family, once the strongest royal suit, was practically invisible.
I think the point of focusing on the Queen was, and I've not been told this, I kind of have to deduce it, was that it was the job of the monarchy that wasn't really understood. What's the monarchy for? Why do we have a monarchy? People had seen in the earlier film the family as a family, but what's the job? And I think it was the political constitutional role that people felt was, people in the palace felt that was the one that wasn't really as well understood and explained.
The film was a great success, attracting an audience of 18 million. But 3 weeks after its first showing came the sudden announcement of the separation of the Duke and Duchess of York. And worse was to follow. In June, the royal image was further damaged by allegations made about problems in the marriage of the Prince and Princess of Wales. The British monarchy has faced many crises since the beginning of the last century, yet it has repeatedly managed to adapt itself and regain the hearts of the people. But today's problems may be of a different order. That element that has proved most important in winning public support, the family and the great events that surround it, can seemingly no longer be relied upon.
In the last decade or so, we have seen all of that literally unravel before our very eyes. Nobody now believes that the monarchy is a happy family anymore. And if you don't have a happy family, and if weddings end up in the divorce court soon after, why do you want grand weddings either? So in a sense, that whole basis of the 20th century British monarchy seems to be at risk at the present time. And that has generated a newly intense amount of discussion about what kind of monarchy we have got and what kind of monarchy we ought to have. And those questions are only going to become more insistent as the remainder of the 20th century unfolds.
As public support fades, one problem that will increasingly beset the monarchy in the years ahead will be how to preserve its role as the focus of unity for the nation, a representative of all the people, at the same time as being the epitome of rank and privilege. Next week, we examine the place of the monarchy in a classless society.